Nav is a successful Canadian rapper signed to the Weeknd's XO label. With 13 Billboard Hot 100 hits, one top 10 hit, 5 albums debuting in the top 10, and 2 number 1 albums, it's no secret that Nav has had plenty of success since he began to gain traction in 2015. But in 2024, we've only seen singles by Nav and a feature here and there. From an artist who was dropping a project every year, it's a little odd that Nav has taken such a big break between albums, with his last project dropping 2 years ago. In this video, we're going to go over a few reasons why I think Nav is holding off on dropping any more music. If you're new here, my name's Ron. I make 3 to 4 videos on hip hop every week, and I'm currently on the grind to 10K subs. So if you want to help me out with that, be sure to subscribe, and let's dive right into the video. So starting back on January 14th of 2024, Billboard had a massive rule change that really affected Nav and a lot more artists in the hip hop industry, and just in the music industry as general, as album bundles were going crazy at this point in time. Before this, if you were to order a vinyl or a sweatshirt that comes with the album, or a CD or a cassette, whatever it may be, it a lot of the times you were ordering a pre-order, and they would submit that to count as a sale for that first week of the album being released. But now they would have to essentially ship it out before the week's over and confirm that they shipped it out for it to count. Why this affected Nav is that Nav is known to do album bundles, and he did a collab with V Lone in the past, actually, where they were collaborating selling Nav t-shirts at a much lower price than V Lone is normally known to sell for. So fans and people that don't even listen to Nav were super quick to jump on this, and it was really inflating his numbers. And I believe this album actually sold over 100,000 units first week because of this tactic that he used. And a lot of fans of hip hop and a lot of music critics really don't like this because it takes away from the actual sales of the music and what the music genuinely, genuinely you'll see a separation between pure album sales and digital sales. But a lot of times, pure, you can't, I mean, unless how many were from album bundles and how many were like, the album itself, then, that matter. Granted, most people are streaming music nowadays. It's to count the people that just bought the actual album itself and didn't go to buy a t-shirt or something and get a digital download. But this really affected Nav because Nav has always dropped his album with some type of bundle, some type of product, something that'll really boost his album sales that first week. Because I'm a fan of Nav, but let's be real, bro. He was never 100K. Even landscape, when rappers aren't selling that much, looking back at the numbers when they were super inflated, Nav should not have been a 100K artist. Do I think he has potential to sell that much? Yes. But when he was selling that much, I feel like the music quality wasn't there. But granted, music really mattered for first week sales. But Nav has always struck me as like the 40, 80K artist. If he's really hot, I can see 80K. That's anything over that just seems a little suspicious, I guess. Like, start throwing some botting allegations or some, just into it a little more. And when you find out that it's a lot of album bundles from Nav, it sort of makes sense why he sold 100K. Not to say that Nav is a bad artist or anything. I really enjoy his music, and he was actually in my Spotify top artists from like 2018. I don't listen to much Nav anymore, but I saw his music whenever I get the chance. And also, another reason I think Nav is not really wanting to drop any music at the moment or drop his album is the lack of label support. So if you notice, Nav hasn't collabed with The Weeknd since Bad Habits in 2019. And The Weeknd has been somebody who hasn't really shown too much support for his artists, especially in recent years. And I have a whole nother video that I'm going to really dive deep in on that. So make sure you subscribe so you catch that video. But The Weeknd just isn't really known to support his artists. He supported Nav in the past and has 2 records with Nav. But, he had artists like 88 Glam that he dropped and he used to support heavily. Belly, I don't see him supporting Belly anymore, although Belly does a lot of the background work on the Weeknd projects. It seems like the Weeknd really doesn't care for the success of his artists or seeing them shine. And I'm not too deep into it because I don't want to give away too much from, I'm going to do specifically on the Weeknd and XO, the label. But I just don't think the Weeknd supports his artists, and I don't think that he really wants his artists to shine like that. Not to the degree of like an OVO's camp type deal, but the Weeknd definitely doesn't support his artists that heavily. I'm sure he supports them and wants them to succeed, but he just doesn't show that support publicly or doesn't really push his artists to continue to drop and continue to have that momentum in his career, because 2 years since we last received a Nav product is a lot of time for a rapper that I believe needs to be dropping every year. I think Nav needs to be dropping every year to say hi. He needs to consistently be on features. He needs to consistently have singles out and, just to talked about. Nav is a pretty out of the way guy. He keeps to himself. He doesn't really, stay media too much, or he doesn't pop out too much, I guess. So by consistently dropping music, that's keeping his momentum going. And if his label is not letting him drop music, then, they're not showing him any support and they're sort of stalling his career at this point. And that leads me into the next point. I think that there could be a potential separation from Nav and EXO in the future. So the biggest grant so I am going to dive a lot more into this in that EXO the weekend video, but to dive a little bit into it, 88 Glam was dropped from EXO, and a lot of this had to do with a lot of deeper disagreements within the group and the label itself, and 88 group not really getting along too well anymore, to say the least. Those two, they worked great together, but I guess personal issues led them to want to break up, and that might have led to some label troubles. But they were ultimately dropped from the label, and we just haven't heard from them since. I don't know if a lot of you guys have heard of 88 Glam, but they were a very promising group and they had a lot of momentum back in 2018, 2019, 2020. And, it all just sort of stopped out of nowhere, and they just stopped getting any label support after their second project. And, just see, because they had a lot of potential to grow. Another thing is we never really see Nav with the Weeknd anymore. You used to see Nav talking highly of the Weeknd a lot in the past, and popping up. And then also the XO OVO beef, the whole Weeknd and Drake beef, I feel puts Nav in a conflicted spot, because Nav is somebody who has a song with Drake, and he's spoken about this song with Drake. I couldn't find the exact interview, so I can't clip it, but he did mention that he wasn't dropping this song because it wasn't the right time for the song, but also this was in the middle of the Weeknd and Drake really beefing, so I can see why it wasn't dropped. But it seems like Nav and Drake got along and that they were friends, but him being signed to the Weeknd sort of puts him in a conflicted spot where, he roll around with what XO says, so he couldn't really support Drake in that way. And, things are real negatives to being signed to another artist, because it's sort of, if that you're signed to gets into in with another artist, you sort of have to take their side by nature, just the politics of the game. And it really puts that label's or that artist's signees in a weird spot, or at the very least, they shouldn't really have to decide, and it's not really their business, whatever. And I think this is something that could lead to a potential EXO separation, and Nav leading the more independent route at that, as that's been super heavy recently with a lot of prominent artists going independent, like Kendrick, Russ, and the list goes on. There's a ton of artists wanting to go independent and own their own music, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is a route that Nav wants to take. But with that, I think that's all the reasons why we haven't seen any Nav music come out this year, really. Aside from, I think he dropped 2 singles this year. And I just don't think that Nav is really all in there with XO anymore. I think that we'll see a potential separation in the future. We might see an independent Nav who, granted, might not be as successful mainstream wise. I think Nav's most successful days in the mainstream are past him. I think he still has a core dedicated fan base that wants to hear from him a lot. But if we're not getting that music, they're going to start to dwindle and just not check out as much anymore. So hopefully we get some new Nav music in the future. If you made it this far in the video, do you listen to Nav? Do you like his music? What's your favorite album by him? Personally, if I had to pick one, it would probably be Good Intentions or Bad Habits. Those two albums. Bad Habits, now I think about it. That Durkio song on the deluxe ruined it for me. I didn't like that song at all. One of those songs. The other song was cool. But yeah, Good Intentions was a good one. I really like that one. Do you check out for Nav? Are you on new Nav music? Are you excited for him to drop an album hopefully in the near future? And if you made it this far in the video, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys watching the full video. Remember to like a video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe so you don't miss a future upload. And I should be posting another video tomorrow. I'm trying to get more consistent. And honestly, there's 1 month left in the year. I'm going to try to post every day for the rest of the year. So hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow. If not, be the next day after that. But 99% chance I'll see you guys tomorrow. But with that being said, peace.